Hello, my name's Ashlyn Bingham, and I'm from Shelley, Idaho, but right now my husband and I are living in Wasco, California for his job, and we really like it down here, and I hope this is working. Pam Ackerman asked me to share this video on High Five Live, so if you're watching, just comment where you're from, where you're watching from, and it'll be exciting to see where everybody's watching from. I really like High Five Live. I watch their videos a lot on Facebook and they're really uplifting and fun to watch. And sometimes I feel like my experience won't be as beneficial to an audience as some other people's have been, but that's the cool thing about the atonement is that no matter what you've been through or no matter what experiences you've had, we can all bond over the fact that we've used the atonement of Jesus Christ. So if your challenge is like mine or if it's not like mine, then I hope there's still a way that you can benefit from my message. So Pam asked me to speak a little bit about an experience that I had about a year ago. So my husband and I, before we were married, we had only been dating for about 2 weeks. We were down at his farm in Blackfoot, Idaho, and we were just cleaning and moving things out of his old house, and he decided to take a break. So he went and got on his mom's razor. And if you're not familiar with what a razor is, it's a recreational vehicle. It's kind of like a four-wheeler. It has 4 seats and it has like a thing over top, but there's no windows. So he jumped in the razor and he asked me if I wanted to go on a little ride just around the farm. And all of his nieces and nephews heard, so they jumped in too. And so we just went on a little ride. It wasn't anything crazy or dangerous, or so we thought, and we were riding and it was a really sunny day last June, and I just had the thought, wow, I really like this guy that I'm dating and I'm really happy and I can see this going somewhere. And as soon as I had that thought, my thought got cut short because we crashed. The razor flipped. And we still don't know exactly what happened, but my husband, or my boyfriend at the time, he took a sharp turn and we were on flat ground, so it didn't really make any sense, but the razor flipped and I broke the #1 rule of any sort of semi-dangerous machinery. I tried to catch myself, so the rule that they say on roller coasters to keep your hands inside the vehicle, I broke that rule. And as soon as we assessed the damage and made sure the kids were okay and kind of got a grip on what was happening, I looked down at my hand and it was about this wide and it was just filleted. I broke a bunch of bones in my hand and it was a bloody mess. And I didn't feel any pain though yet, but we went to the hospital. We drove to the hospital, and I just remember thinking, doctors can fix anything. There's nothing so bad about this injury that can't be healed pretty quick, because I've never had an injury before that I didn't just kind of get over in a few weeks. It didn't just heal by itself. Well, I came to learn that that wasn't the case. I am still suffering from the consequences of this injury. And I remember that night there was a hand surgeon on call and he performed a 4-hour surgery on my hand. And when I woke up from the surgery, it was nighttime and my mom was sitting next to me and I just was crying. I was just thinking of all the opportunities I was missing. I was supposed to move down to Utah that fall and work and make new friends, and I thought, I can't do that now. I've got to do therapy and different things to heal from this injury. And I was just thinking about all these things. I was thinking I might have arthritis in the future. I won't be able to play volleyball for a while. And it was really depressing to think about all these things that I couldn't do. And so the weeks and a couple months went by. I was doing a bunch of different therapy. I was doing physical therapy and wound care, and I eventually had to have my pinky amputated, and I had to do a therapy called hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And I'd never heard of this therapy before, but it's basically like a big glass tube, and I had to go lay in that for 2 hours every day. And I could watch TV, but I couldn't bring anything in the chamber with me. I just had to lay there and just breathe oxygen to heal my hand. And it was so boring. It was so frustrating to go sit there every day and just think about how sorry I was for myself and just have a little pity party in that chamber every day. And so one day I decided to take a little break from watching like Netflix, and I asked the guy who was supervising me if he could turn on some BYU speeches. And I watched one called Lessons from Liberty Jail by Elder Jeffrey R. Holland. And I just wanted to share a little quote from him. But first, if you've ever, I'm sure you've heard the quote, like, everything happens for a reason. And that's a good quote, but it doesn't have much meaning just because it's so cliche. So this quote by Elder Holland really supports that, and it has more meaning for me at least. So he says, every experience can become a redemptive experience if we remain bonded to our Father in heaven through it. These difficult lessons teach us that man's extremity is God's opportunity. And what that means to me is just that God knows that we have ways that we can grow that we might not see ourselves. And in my experience, maybe God knew that I couldn't reach my full potential unless I lost a finger. And I know that it's true. God takes our bad experiences and the things that hurt us, and he makes them better if we let him. If we choose to just sit and be angry, then we're not probably going to change much for the better. And so that's one of the things I want to hit on. The other main idea that I wanted to talk about is what I like to call intentional healing. And that's basically the idea that most of the time we see trials as obstacles. Even if we have a perspective of like an eternal perspective, even if we know that trials can be a good thing, we still sometimes see them as just something we need to get over or that we need to hurry and overcome. And in some cases, I think that's a good thing. With some trials, that's probably okay. But for something like this, in my experience of a physical injury, I realized that it takes more time and energy to heal. You can't just, it's not just like I sprained my ankle and I just had to, walk it off. This is something that will be with me for the rest of my life. And it took a lot of energy to heal physically and emotionally. I had to stop thinking of all the things that I couldn't do, and I had to just start adapting of how I could use my new hand that was more limited. And so rather than an obstacle, our trials are more of a spiritual education. So I'm a college student right now. So like if our premortal life, when we lived with God and Jesus Christ, was our coursework, if we're working on a major, that was our coursework. We learned and we did the book work. And this life, where we have all these trials and challenges, is kind of like our internship. It's where we have hands-on experience and we're learning, and it's not just, we're not just reading from a book, we're learning and we're doing. And it's more beneficial, I think. That's why we needed this mortal experience. And so if we're going to get a major of eternal salvation, we need to do the internship. We need to do the hands-on experience, and sometimes that means we have to do things that we don't want to do or that are a little bit hard, or a lot hard. And along with that, when I was doing my hyperbaric oxygen therapy that I mentioned earlier, I was so sick of it, and I did it for about 2 weeks, and I said that it was 2 hours a day. So I got done with 2 weeks, and then I asked the people that were having me do this therapy, like, can I be done now? Is it time for me to be finished with this? And they'd be like, just do it for 5 more days. Can we just try it for 5 more days and see how your hand looks after that? And I was like, okay, I can do 5 more days of this, because I was missing classes and social events and everything to go do this dumb therapy. I thought it was dumb. It was actually really good. But I just kept hearing that from my doctors, like, just 5 more days, just 5 more days, week after week after week. And I was just getting so sick of it. And in the end, I learned that they usually do increments of 40 days. I didn't know that. And if you would have told me on day 1 that I had to do that oxygen therapy for 40 days, a total of 80 hours, I would have not done it probably, because it was so miserable for me. But something that I learned about intentional healing is that we need to take things one day at a time. And that's also pretty cliche, but that helped me so much. If you can't do something for the rest of your life, I'll have this injury for the rest of my life. So that's a long time to think about having something hurt and, have limited use of my hand. That's a long time to think about. I don't like thinking like that. If you can't think about the rest of your life doing something hard, then think about it for the next couple years. And if you can't think of that, then think about the next couple days. And if you can't think about that, the next couple hours. If you can't do that, get through the next 5 minutes. Anyone can do something hard for 5 minutes. That's something that helped me throughout this whole ordeal, and it's something that I have to keep going back to when I get into my pity party mode. And so I know that God sees more than we do. He knows infinitely more than we know about ourselves and about our potential. And I don't know if he caused my wreck. I don't know if he wanted me to lose a finger and to lose movement of my hand. I guess I should show you my hand, huh? It's got some scarring and it looks weird. I can't straighten it. I don't know if God caused that. We like to joke that God wanted that to happen so that I would marry my husband, but I don't know if that's the case. I'm excited to learn if that was the case someday, but I know that for whatever reason this happened to me, and for whatever child that you have, it's an opportunity for God to bless you and me. And take time to heal, take time to put energy into what you need to heal from, whether it's emotional or physical or mental or whatever it is. You need to take that time. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.